Spox are a leading UK and now global company providing custom brand kits, whether that is clothing or socks. They are with you every single step of the way by bringing your idea to light. They exclusively work with fitness communities, business communities in the UK and worldwide. To check out everything that they do, head over to www.spox.uk.
In this life, everyone's just so miserable and it's so heartbreaking. The more fun and joy we can get from simple things, even when things aren't going your way, as long as you had fun doing it, then you're doing it right.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom. I am your podcast host, Luke Beastall, and I have a guest who is from the UK, London specifically. Her name is Daria. She is a somatic manifestation coach. Now, I know what you guys are probably tuning in and thinking right now. What is that title? What does that actually mean? We're going to let her actually introduce what that is. But just before, I want to just share a little bit about her background, because I think this is going to be really key for especially what it is that feedback-wise, what we receive, what's really going to be impactful in today's episode. So Daria had always, I guess, lived her life through what everyone else's expectations were of her in terms of her career, going into psychology, being in the mental health profession, and again, being in a government prison. She's seen a lot of things, whether that's been addiction, maybe something such as depression. So we're going to delve into what made her transition, what got her out of what we could say is societal conditioning and actually allowed her to create her dream life and her dream business alongside that. And she actually said right at the beginning, which this was off air, which I wish I'd have caught it. She just went, I really didn't care what people thought about me anymore. And I think that's a really powerful thing to say. I'm going to be quiet. Daria, welcome to our podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here. Yeah, so I guess I'll delve into a little bit about what I do. So
Yes.
somatic manifestation. I guess I kind of just put the two together because it sounds interesting and it has a lot of meaning behind it. So manifestation, when we think about it, we usually tend to think about getting what we want, right? Like sort of manifesting something that we desire. But really, it's so much more deep than that. It's about coming back into your power. It's about taking control of your life and building the life that you envision, that you want. So it's really taking that driver's seat finally, right? So it's like getting rid of all the programming, getting rid of all the things that are holding us back and taking control back, because we all can. We just don't always know it, or we're all too busy living our lives to actually know that we can live a different way. So to me, that's what manifestation is. Now, the somatic part comes in from the point where I realized that in a lot of health space and even holistic space, the body tends to be missed a lot of the time. So we tend to speak about the mind and changing our mindset and even, getting rid of limiting beliefs and fears, but we forget about the body. And actually, the body and the mind are interlinked and connected. So the somatic aspect is coming back into the body and working with it to then also have an effect on the mind, and I bring in the spiritual aspect too. So that's why the somatic manifestation, because to me, to come into wholeness, you have to include the body, and a lot of what I do includes the body first and foremost, as for me, that's like the first step, the first entry step, which then you get access to the mind and then the spiritual part, right, to bring it all together. So yeah, pretty much I help people come back to themselves and provide healing practices that aid with all sorts of things. It's very much about just reclaiming your life and living your best life and taking control of yourself, your health, and your future.
Oh, I really love that. And do you know what I think? Just a key point that I wanted to just bring to the sort of attention here for the audience is that sort of control of not just the mind, but I guess the sort of body aspect as well. Because I think obviously, like what you said, I love the fact that people's like, self-limiting beliefs, all those kind of things, mindset, but I love how you sort of put those both together, because I think that the body is a key thing. But I've got to ask you this, because I always truly think as well and believe that when you sort of create something, genuinely comes from either a problem you faced yourself or something that you feel that, you've been through that you now want to give back to others. Yeah. So what brought you to become a somatic manifestation coach?
Yeah, so within my own journey, as you mentioned at the start, I first went down the more like traditional routes of helping people and health. I did a psychology undergraduate. I then moved on from that to do work in mental health hospitals. And then I worked in a government prison, a range of conditions, presentations, a very broad range of people that I worked with. But I very quickly found that I felt myself being trapped within a way that I had to present myself in the system. So the systems are so limited in how you have to show up day to day that I felt a lot of the time I wasn't able to truly be myself or to truly make the impact that I knew I could make outside of the systems. So I really felt limited by all the paperwork or the structure. Right. And whilst I understand why it's there on a large scale, it's to protect the people that work there, it's to protect the system. I felt like there was a lot more that needed to happen for me if I was to reach a point where I felt like I was really fulfilling my purpose in giving to people in the way I knew I could. And to be honest, within my own self as well, I felt myself very quickly declining. So even though I was working in these places where I was helping people with their own conditions, I saw myself decline very quickly because unfortunately, I don't know how it is now, but back then when I was still there wasn't enough support for the people that actually work there too. So whilst you're there providing the support for the people that really need it, you're taking on a lot of what's going on through vicarious trauma, through stress. It's a very stressful environment. It's a very high pressure environment. You take on a lot of that. To be honest, I don't think we were given enough resources to really handle it ourselves. And for me, I'm quite an empath anyway. I'm quite I absorb everyone's energies, I absorb everyone's moods so much that back then, again, we weren't really provided the basis of how to then go home and switch off, how to go home and process and switch off. So I wasn't able to do that. I very much took my work with me emotionally. I started to not sleep pretty much at all by the end of it. My digestion was all over the place. I was barely eating 5 coffees a day, whole wake up, not eat at all throughout the day, coffee. And then before sleep, you'd eat a huge meal and crash out because of the food coma, right? So it was the usual behaviors that you see in people that are basically just trying to cope in the best way they know how. And their body is just how it's coping with the stressful environment that they're having to put up with. So all that had a huge impact on my health. Got diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, which actually there is now a lot of links with autoimmune conditions and chronic stress and trauma. Mm-hmm. So now that I look back at it, it completely makes sense that it kind of got to that point. But yeah, I was very much pretty much bedbound for a year. I had to leave my job and I was like, oh my God, how did this happen? I'm meant to be the person that helps others. How did this happen to me? And I really had to analyze, okay, where did I go wrong? What happened? And I started to read more around trauma. And the book I came across was The Body Keeps the Score. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but it's in the...
I haven't actually. Space. Yeah. Okay.
I really recommend to everyone, honestly. It's one of the best books I've read. And it's the first thing that I was reading, and every single page, I was like, this makes sense. This is me. This was chronic stress. This is trauma. And it just opened up my eyes to how important the body was in day-to-day living and in just how I was showing up in life and how I was ignoring it this whole time. Because in those environments, I just kind of, I woke up, I said to myself, I just have to get through because I have to show up. I have to just do the job, I have to pay the bills, all this. And I just kept pushing and pushing to the point where my body could no longer give me enough symptoms. It just went, right, we're just going to make you bedbound so you can have a real good think about your life. So, and the body does that. There's a lot of cases of people with sort of burnout after this, stress and trauma. And it's really the body's way of saying you need to really look at your life. You need to evaluate what's going on and to make changes. So that's how I came across that work at first. And it completely opened up my eyes to this whole new area of holistic health because, being in a system, working in these environments, the emphasis is very much on the mind and the mental health and, the medications and all these. These are all important parts, but they just completely ignore the body and its role in the whole aspect of it all. So yeah, it's very much going through it myself and then learning to work through the trauma that I was carrying through the body is what I now add to what I do, because it's something I had to go through myself, right? And do extra research and learning on to then be like, yeah, now I get it. Now there's a full picture that I have. which is why I'm in that space now.
Yeah, it's very clear. Thank you for sharing that as well. It's very clear to sort of see the passion now where you are from where you came from. So there was so much good things there that I was like thinking, there's a question here, there's a question there, there's a question here. First question, because I just so the guys can understand who's listening in and watching back, is how many years would you say that you was in this sort of cycle, this sort of like, you know, when you wake up and go, oh, God, I've just got to show up today.
Oh gosh, I mean, honestly, like probably like ever, like a specific job, like as soon as I started the job. So like the 3 years, like within the mental health hospitals and the
Yeah.
prison, 3 years there. With uni, it was like similar experience. So what I will say is not just like showing up for work where I wake up and I'm like, okay, I just got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was like that up until a few years ago in life. So not just showing up on work, but how I showed up in life, because I was running on autopilot. So it's like I would wake up and a part of me would just run the day, right? You'd wake up with like fears, anxieties over what's happening in the day, and everything would just kick off. And it's almost like you're watching your life just unfold and you feel like you're in the back seat and it's just kind of running it. And you just sit there and you're like, oh my God, this is so stressful and I don't know what to do and everything sucks. So I was in that state for pretty much my whole life up until literally like a few years ago. So I would say that's even more important, because I think a lot of people start with that headspace and then it plays out in their work as well as other areas of life. So yeah.
Yeah, so if you was this is really good. So you know, if you was to sort of watch a film of the old Daria, if you was just watch it on Netflix as a bit of a series, right? The day to day, what would you be thinking now that you're on the other side?
I'd be like, oh my gosh, take a break. Give yourself a break. Just take a pause, take a breath, relax. Like, see that you are okay. You're doing what you're doing, like accept it, move on with it. So really like show myself a lot of that love and compassion that I didn't have. I think I had a lot of like negative self-talk, which again, we don't even realize how much we have it off until we start to delve into it. Like I was so run by this like negativity and I didn't even know it, like because it just felt like the only thing I knew, right? It felt so normal to me. And it felt so normal for me to live in these high pressure, chronically stressful environments, because that's kind of all I've known, like growing up, even teenage years, uni, and then work life. It was almost like if I look back at my patterns playing out, I chose environments that were highly stressful because they almost like they felt comfortable, they felt like home, they felt safe, even though they're the opposite of that. That's all I knew, right? That's all my body knew. So that's where I ended up landing, and that's a really big thing as well. So for anyone listening to this, if you're like relating to this, like reflect back of like how it's making you feel and maybe why you're ending up in certain environments, because it could show you a lot about yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of like, I can relate in some way. I just find as well that some people, I'm not saying this was the case for you, it might be, correct me if I'm wrong, but just look for chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's sort of like when you said about the environment, it's like you as soon as you went into a high stressful environment, or you had that negative self-talk, that you was just like, yeah, I'm in the right place, sort of thing. Could you give us some examples of what that negative self-talk was? What was you saying to yourself? What was you sort of looking at in the mirror and reflecting on, like when you was in that headspace and body space?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of like not feeling good enough, a lot of
Right.
like, oh, I'm never gonna like be knowledgeable enough or wise enough, or like you look this way, why do you look this way? Why are you doing this? Like you're really like not at your best self, and just honestly all the anxiety, all the depressive thoughts. And I think what you said is really important to mention, the whole like looking for that chaos. It's because like again, when our nervous system is used to that, it literally like signals, like when you see chaos in front of you, your nervous system picks up on it and it goes, yep, this is what I know. And it's almost like you get attracted to it because it feels like what you know. Anything else feels unsafe, even though we know, of course, like a more regulated, stable space would be safer for us. Our body actually doesn't distinguish that. Our body sees that as a threat. So any
Yeah.
sort of like other environment that we could potentially see to what like we could pick for us feels unsafe and feels threatening. So our nervous system literally like almost guides us towards an environment and gives us all these reasons of why we should be there because it feels like the one we should be in. So within this healing space, this actually takes quite a bit of time to titrate in calm and peace, because at first it can feel really unsafe and unsettling. Like, it's really weird to say, right? Surely we all think we all want peace, we all want calm and stability and safety. But the reality is our body literally doesn't know how to handle it when we first like start to delve into it. So we have to like titrate it in bit by bit and build our capacity to hold space for these emotions, to hold space for these new environments, and to actually like feel good within them. So yeah, it's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, but it's a very, very valid point though, Daria, that you're sharing, because it is, people have that sort of addiction to chaos or addiction to stress or high pressured environments, like you were saying before, where you just, if you was looking back at your old self in a movie or a Netflix series, it'd be like, come on, slow down, breathe, have a break. Obviously, is that slow down, have a bit of space. So I'm sure people here will be listening and going, do you know what? I feel that way. I feel like I'm chaotic. I'm busy all the time. I literally never stop. I'm just go, 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 go. When was the first moment for you when you felt that sense of calm?
When I started to do the somatic work, so when I started to really tune into my body, like I didn't realize how disconnected or dissociated I was from myself. So it's like, again, right, it's kind of a really good way of explaining it is watching the movie. So it's like you're not actually physically landed in your body. It's like it's happening, but you're not like feeling all the emotions that are inside you. It's like you can sort of explain it, oh, I feel like sad, I feel anxious, but because they're so overwhelming at first, you don't actually let them go through the body. Like you don't feel where they are in the body, right? So at first when I started to do this work is where it was quite a lot at first, because it's like your body coming on, right? It's like an on switch and everything suddenly is like a lot. So it's like, again, I say with this work, you have to like give yourself time. You have to like slowly titrate into it, because when you first start to connect back, it's like a whole new level of sensations almost, right? So yeah, for me, it was like when I came across the book, I then started to delve more into trauma and started to do a lot of my own healing work. And in those times is when I reconnected with my body over the space of maybe a year or so, gradually, doing the work, taking my time and starting to feel more and more into myself.
Yeah, this is brilliant. I like that, and I think just so we sort of reflect that back into the guys listening, it's obviously it takes time, like you say. It's just drip feeding it in. You've said the word environment quite a lot as well. So obviously you've shifted environments. You've also exposed yourself to information that sort of makes a lot of sense to you. Like you said about that body score book, going, I'm just reading every page. It's like, yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me. And I think it's that awareness piece that a lot of people sort of miss, like what you just said there about you just sort of like watching yourself, because most people are quite external, they're looking at everything externally, but you've kind of gone inwards, you've gone internally and actually found who you are. So if you was to look at sort of like, obviously your body was sort of going down, like you said, you went on a downward spiral, and then this autoimmune condition sort of stopped you, it got you in better. Would you be okay to share sort of what life was like then, if you could share more details about what the condition was, because there might be people who can relate to that?
Yeah, so with autoimmune condition, it's like severe fatigue. So it's like you literally feel like your whole life force is just gone. It's like,
Right.
drained. That's like the main thing with autoimmune in like a generic space.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's, all the different ones will have their own specificities. So mine was a lot of like, I get cold very easily, like digestion issues, mental fogginess, depression, all those things come into play because your hormones are affected. And again, each specific autoimmune condition will be its own thing, but fatigue tends to be a thing across the board, right?
Yeah.
I like to point that out because, again, to me, it's like a signal of the body saying, slow down. It's like, it's literally putting you into space where you have to slow down because you almost can't move, right? Your energy is just gone. So you have to like lay there and be like, okay, what am I going to do now? So it's like it's putting you in that space where you needed to be before. So it's like almost the final signal, right? The final push. And again, to me, like I really hope that people can hear what, my story and maybe not get to that space. But for me, I'm glad that I did, because it's what got me out of it, right?
Of
It's what
course.
made me realize that, okay, no, I really do need to slow down. To be honest, like I literally didn't know how at all. And I'm sure most people don't. Like even rest can sometimes feel like a chore, right? We can be like, okay, I'm going to rest for 5 minutes. I'm going to be very still. I'm going to relax every muscle. And it's like, even that can be very structured. So it's really hard to rest naturally these days, because we're just so conditioned not to. We're so conditioned to like go, go, go.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to how it was for me, it was, very depressing. I felt very hopeless. And having come from that space of working in the prison, I wanted to help people who were at the lowest, help people who were, heavy in addiction and were in this cycle of committing crime again and again, because, they would do the same patterns over and over. And to be honest, it was very, very difficult to break that pattern because of many, many things. And I felt like there was a lot of systemic barriers as well. So I came out of that space feeling very hopeless. And I came out of that space feeling very hopeless for myself too, because I was like, oh my gosh, like the world is so dark and gray, and it just, yeah. And I kind of was like, I was just so lost. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I spent all these years like going down this route, and I felt like I needed to be professional to like, get approval from my family, all this. And then, but at the end of the day, I just knew that there came a moment where I said to myself, I'm either going to completely change how I'm addressing life, or I'm just not going to be here anymore. That's how it felt to me, right? So it was very much that breaking point of I made the decision to just show up differently. And even though I was bedbound, I started reading all these materials, I started doing courses and, doing what I can. Also, I got extra help. I got specialist help for my condition, which was a more of a holistic approach rather than your direct route of medication. Because usually for autoimmune conditions, I mean, generally for anything in the UK system, I can't speak to other systems, the first response is medication, right? Like we all know
Yeah.
it's very pharmaceutically based, which I'm not at all against. I just wish that there were other options offered too. Because I will say, with my own journey, I didn't want to be on medication for the rest of my life. So I got specialist help, which was very much more about lifestyle change and nutritional changes, which then could regulate my body. And that's the route I went down. And of course, it didn't happen overnight. It took a few months to like make the changes happen with nutrition. But then I finally started to see the changes. Like I started to be able to walk more, I got up more, my moods were better. Like I wasn't so foggy anymore. I was able to like respond better. So I would really like to point out that there are other options apart from the first one you get shoved at you. So please consider other things, because it's not the case that we have to be on medication for the rest of our life. For some conditions, that may be necessary, but not for everything. So I just want to give people the hope that there are other ways to like treat your condition. And even though mine is for life, I know I can manage it. Like, it's balanced, it's stable, and I know I can do that through the changes I made, which was nutrition, sleep. Sleep was a huge one. So like very good like sleep patterns and long enough sleep as well. Most of us do not get enough in the night.
I agree.
And again, the way I approached my body, so the relationship I had with my body, which is very much becoming the friend with my body. So not forcing it or pushing it too much, but more listening to what I had to say. And same went for my mind. It's like becoming a friend with myself and treating myself from a space of compassion rather than constantly judging or pushing to change or be better. It was more meeting myself where I was at. And that's what really like set the growing path, because when you can accept where you're at, the change happens naturally. Like you don't actually need to push so much.
Yeah, this is great. I love what you're sharing, because I think being open-minded, knowing that there are, other options out there. Obviously for you, like you say, if you're sort of feeling, you don't have to force change. If it feels sort of aligned to you, it sort of naturally kind of goes where it needs to go. So I'd love to ask, because, when you're sort of low, right? So obviously you was in this position where, obviously you got bed bound, and it it knocked you out basically in a way. You was, really feeling low. What made you sort of in that moment think, surely there's got, because this is how people, surely there's got to be another way? Because, yeah, I'm just wondering what made you just go against the the first option of like medication?
Well, I have a background in medications in general. So I also have like psychiatric research masters. And, I have a bit of a background in terms of like medication and how it has an effect on you. So just for me personally, I already knew that I didn't want that to be my first option, because a lot of the time the medication has a permanent effect on your body and your brain. And I knew there was also a lot of side effects to it. And on top of that, I've actually been on antidepressants in my life previously twice. So I knew the effects that medication can have on you. So it was just, for me, I was like, I want to consider other options before that being my final one, because I've always seen medication as the sort of final solution rather than the first one, because it does create more permanent changes in your state. Whereas, if I could address it through lifestyle and nutrition, like, why wouldn't I, right? Like, sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult, because of course, again, if you're leading a life where you don't have the time, right? You're like, I just need to show up. I need this problem fixed. I'm just going to take a pill. This is the way the world works. But unfortunately, that's what leading us to all these issues in the first place. So I wanted to break that cycle from where it was starting in the first place, which was, I didn't want to take the short route anymore. I was like, I want to make big long-term changes rather than picking something that's going to fix more of a outside problem, but internally it's not going to make the changes I needed to make. So to me, that's my philosophy around it. And I would hope that, again, a lot of people would maybe consider how fixing something short term is going to cause more issues down the line. So it's kind of like, is it worth actually taking a pause and reflecting and spending more time, maybe doing something that feels harder, like a lifestyle change, but really long term is going to have greater benefits for you, right? So
becoming a dad back in 2023 has definitely been challenging at times. Being on this entrepreneur journey, having multiple businesses, it can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. One way to kick off your personal development journey is nestled in the heart of Montenegro. Syro Boca Place offers more than just a lifestyle experience. It is the ultimate active lifestyle hotel. Whether you're looking to rejuvenate in their state-of-the-art recovery lab, take a dip in the 25-meter half Olympic pool with a retractable roof, or explore the stunning trails of Boca Bay, there is something for everyone. And if you're like me, who wants to stay active and experience what is on offer, so if you're looking to elevate your travel experience and feel better than when you arrive, to get in on the experience, head over to www.syrohotels.com. Yeah, no, I like sort of your explanation there as well, because, I mean, obviously it's clear that you've got the background in it. You've obviously been exposed to it. You know all about it. Like you said, you've had a bit of an experience on the antidepressants. I'm with you with the holistic way anyway, more natural. Obviously, yeah, every chemical action has a reaction. I think it's really great that you've sort of, again, people listening, just to consider, just to look, just to slow down, check in a little bit, see what options are out there. Look, like it's not saying that, you can't do that, but just knowing that there is another way, which I think is really great. And obviously, again, looking at the long term, I think obviously we're very short term, short sighted. We, like I say, we want the instant sort of result, want the alleviation of pain, whatever that pain is. So, but again, there's going to be pain either way, or more pain later down the line. So for you, just how long did it take you, would you say, to sort of recover, to sort of start to like come out of this place and feel more aligned and more in tune with yourself?
So in terms of the condition, it took about 4 months of very specific dietary changes and like detoxes and then introduction of food. And so it was like 4 months of really stabilizing my body. But mentally, even within the first sort of month of changes of like nutrition and sleep, I was already starting to feel hopeful, because in a way I was like making a drastic change and doing something, and that in itself already was kind of like pushing me to do more and more. So again, like for me, I was at such a breaking point where I was like, I'm either going to completely change everything or it's just not working. So that's it. It was like, it's not working, and I just have to change everything. So it was quite remarkable, honestly, how much lifestyle changes can have an effect on us, and we just don't realize. If I was coming from a place where I was sleeping, I don't know, 2 hours a night. You know, my
Wow,
food
really?
was just like, it was terrible. Like I was barely eating, or like huge meals before bed, like I mentioned, so much caffeine, alcohol, like all these things that I was using as coping mechanisms.
Mm.
And again, I by no means it was like, I'm not even going to call it bad, because it was just me adapting to the situation the best I could. So there's no shame or judgment there. So again, if anyone going through it, it absolutely makes sense. Like we all have some one way or another of coping mechanisms, right? Because we're not given the information to know how to do better or how to address a situation better. And this is kind of where platforms like this come in, right? It's giving the knowledge to say to people, hey, there are other ways. You just have to spend a little bit of time sitting with yourself and thinking, is it going to be for me? Like, is it worth it for me long term to consider something that's going to fix the underlying issue rather than the symptom? And that's a personal choice for everyone. And again, there's no shame in yes or no. It's whatever the choice is the one for them, right?
Yeah, and obviously, I'd love to ask this question and just your perspective, because obviously, look, you had a situation that happened that no, you wouldn't wish on anybody, right? Obviously, I know it's been a blessing for you. It's obviously got you to where you are today. But if you sort of was just saying to somebody that maybe is relating to some of these signals that you've said about stress, anxiety, maybe feeling like you say having a couple of hours sleep a night, having a big meal, knowing that they've got coping mechanism, they're sort of like getting through day to day. What would you say to them as like a first step to sort of open the mind up to see it in the long term in terms of changing or at least moving their lifestyle in a bit of a, I guess, healthier way?
I would just say, who are you living your life for? Because if the answer it's not for me, maybe you got to think about it, right? Because a lot of us wake up, and if we really sit there and answer this question, like for me as well, it was like, well, I'm trying to do this so I can please my family. I'm trying to do this because it looks professional, or because it looks like societally acceptable, or I have a lovely certificate that I can put on my wall and, I don't know, tell my grandkids in the future that I was this, like, whatever, psychiatrist, right? But it was like, is that really making me happy, or is that making other people happy? So it's like, who are you doing it for? Who are you living your life for? If it's for you, great. But if it's not, maybe it's time to really make a change.
That's a very powerful question. That's really good. I think even if, like I say, guys listening in, watching this back, just ask that question to yourself. Even pause this right now and just sit with it a little bit and think, yeah, who am I living my life for?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it's not a question you're going to realistically ask. I mean, even a friend to a friend, or even if like you've got a friend that maybe who's not too happy and maybe in a space, that's a great question, not just straight off the bat, like, but just a question you could ask over, a great conversation.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think we just, again, we're so on autopilot, and we're so involved in our own stresses, like day-to-day stresses that seem like everything. They seem like the world is ending every single day for a different reason, right? For each different stress and reason, that we forget to sort of step back and like look at the bigger picture of everything, of where we are. We forget to understand that actually where we got to is all because of like the choices we've made. Now, there may have not been choices that we were aware of, right? A lot of our coping and limited thinking and programming, they're things that are almost like birthed within us as we go through life. So a lot of it is on autopilot, and it's not like conscious, aware choices. But it comes a point where you can look back and sit back and be like, yeah, you know what? Where I've ended up is actually because of the choices I made. Maybe now I can start making more conscious choices, right? That's the difference, is we become more conscious of how we show up in life. And that's like a very big difference. It's like between living as like a robot on autopilot and being back in the car seat behind, or we take control. We sit in that driver's seat, right? And we are making now decisions from a place of conscious awareness, where we're able to see everything from the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's, again, I like the sort of analogy of the car. I like the fact that you talk about that. I guess it's sort of like a lot of people could be existing, rather
Mm.
than, I guess, existing, surviving, rather than the thriving piece, which again, the lens opens up. You sort of see the bigger picture, like you say, being in the driving seat. From your sort of whole experience of, like say, that condition that you've been through, obviously going through the holistic space, what would you say was the hardest thing that you had to sort of action or take control of to sort of become this, empowerment woman, individual coach that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, most of it was issues and fears around how people were going to perceive me. So, how people were going to respond to, say, like the new version of me, right? So, it's like everyone
Yeah.
knew this, like, old version who showed up in the way she did, and this was her, and this is what people knew, this is who they loved, is how I saw, right? Who they loved, who they accepted. So, to me, thinking this new version is so completely different. How are they're in love with one person, they're not going to be able to love the new person. So it was actually letting go of that idea of they're not going to be able to love the new person. Because when we say that to ourselves, we're taking away power from them, right? We're almost like we're not giving them a chance to be like, hey, here's a new version. How are you going to respond? So it's like we already made the decision for them, saying that they're not going to love it. And that's what was keeping me back. Whereas once I realized that I was almost making the decision for them rather than letting them choose themselves, that's what made the switch, because I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to let them decide for themselves. And if they're going to accept and love the new version of me, wonderful. And if they're not, that's okay. I will also be accepting of that because it's their choice. And it was like, I was okay with it either way because I just knew that whatever happened was how it was meant to be. Because as long as I was being my true voice and my authentic self, it no longer really mattered who was or wasn't in my life, because I just knew that if people weren't going to accept me as I am, then it's just not meant. And that took a lot of self work. That took a lot of self love and self nurture, because I have a lot of abandonment wounds, as well as I'm sure many people do. So my worst thing was always like losing people of my life. Like I was such a people pleaser. I don't think I've even ever said, like, I would do this thing. I would talk to people. I would talk to them in a way that I would adapt to them, basically, so that they would like automatically like me. And it was such a like difficult thing if someone didn't like me or they had anything bad to say about me. So that's the space I came from. So now where it's like, I'm too tired. I just don't have the energy to do that anymore. And I'm just going to show up as myself. And if they want to perceive me as me, that's great. And if not, that's also okay. Maybe our journeys are just not aligned. But I had to give myself the self nurture that I was craving from other people. So really, we're so capable of fulfilling our own needs. A lot of the time we outsource that to our friends, our family, our partners, our dogs, our cats. Like we
Yeah.
outsource everything. Whereas really we are able to give that to ourselves once we reconnect with ourselves. But it is a journey. I'm still on it. Again, I'm not saying I'm like, fully self-love. Like
Yeah.
it's every day it keeps growing and growing.
Well, this is great. So just a quick one. How long have you been on this journey now?
I mean, very serious, like inner deep work healing, a few years.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. And then when did you sort of go? I mean, I'm going to go back a little bit after this, but I'm just curious now. When did you sort of go into the coaching space to
Yeah,
help others?
a
When
few
was that?
years.
A few years ago.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
wasn't even long. Like literally, this whole thing happened like a few years back. So I was still bedbound. Yeah, maybe not a little more than like 2 years or so ago. So this whole journey is a recent one. But that's the thing. The shifts and the changes that you see are so expansive. It's like I've lived 10 lifetimes in like 2 years, It's like I keep changing so much and things just keep happening and unfolding so much. It's like lifetimes have passed. And that's
Yeah.
because there is just like so much more life coming through and showing up. So that's how it feels. And it also reflects in my own life, right? It's like I'm able to make leaps and bounds that I probably would have never been able to make in the space I was at before.
Yeah. So how do you see life differently now, though?
Oh, I mean, for one, I wake up and I'm happy to be awake no matter kind of what the outside is. I set myself sort of an intention in the beginning of the day. I say to myself, okay, how do I want to feel today? And I say to myself, I want to be joyful. I want to be happy. I want to have fun today. I want to feel freedom. I want to feel confident. So I set myself of, okay, this is how I'm going to feel. And I spend a little bit of time doing some connecting work. So some somatic practices, yoga, breath work, all these different elements. And then I make sure I eat my meal, my like specific nutritional meal. And and then I show up for the rest of the day. So it's like my morning is my own like gift to myself now, to reconnect to myself before I even begin anything, because I know as long as I'm connected to myself, I will manage anything that will come at me throughout the day. But that's the big shift. Before, I would have like, rushed up, got going, forgot about everything because I was like, oh, that's the priority. Whereas now I'm the priority. Like I always prioritize myself now.
That's brilliant. That is so good. I love that part because I'm sort of big on that as well, in the space that I'm in and what I stand for, and, serve yourself first so that you can serve others in the best way possible because you are your best version. When you sort of look at it, not doing the other way around, like you say, people pleasing, the people serving sort of thing. I was sort of on the people pleasing side as well. So I get that. Do you know what really struck out to me, Daria, when you was talking about sort of the old version of you, was when you were saying that you used to change a bit of you or filter yourself in a way just so that people would like you.
Yeah.
I think so many people will be like, they'll catch themselves now and go, I'm doing that. Yeah. Why am I doing that? Because that's tiring.
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah.
itself. I don't know, because it's the whole sort of like, again, I guess social media sort of can be a conditioning to a lot of people in today's world. The highlight reel, oh, they look like they're doing really well, they look like they're really happy, and it's a hard performance to
Mm-hmm.
keep up. Like there's got to be a breaking point, surely.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's exhausting. It's like all these different masks you wear depending on the
Yeah.
environment, right? And I mean, a lot of us do anyway, and like that's kind of again where the culture comes in like a professional space where like we have to wear a mask because that's how we almost have to show up to be even accepted to a job, to be seen by a client, all these things, right? So it's like, again, we are already conditioned to be something where we're not fully ourselves. Now, I'm not saying we always have to like be absolutely fully, just talking exactly as we are, no filter, but it's striking a balance, right? It's being, for example, still showing up for me, like showing up professional with clients, but in a way where I know I'm not just completely putting on a mask. I know there's me showing through, but I'm also being my compassionate self that can hold space, because that's important, right? So it's striking that balance. Whereas unfortunately, I think in a lot of like professional spaces, we're almost made to wear a complete mask where none of us can really like show up. We even have to like dress a certain way, we have to like
Yeah.
speak a certain way, and it's seen as good, and it's glorified, and it's helpful for certain professions. Now again, if that doesn't have an effect on you, that's great, then there's no negative thing there, right? But for a lot of people it does have an effect on you, and that's where you maybe need to reflect on it and change it.
Yeah, I think it definitely has a lot of impact on people, but maybe, like you say, it's just being a bit in tune with yourself, maybe slowing down, checking in, seeing where you're at. Because obviously the world goes by fast, time goes, everything's moving at speed that sometimes we don't even know. Like you say, autopilot, we don't even know what day it is. We don't even know what we had for breakfast the day before. It's those kind of feelings. So for you, obviously, you took a massive leap, a risk. Obviously, you got all this education behind you, sort of gone into this, government prison, you did mental health practitioner, all that kind of stuff. What was you feeling like going into setting up your own business? Where did that all stem from?
Yeah, so at first, even I actually started with counseling. So even this whole journey began with
Okay.
another bit of even conditioning going on, because I was like, oh, well, I have to do something that's again seen as professional, right?
All
I
right, I
started
see.
off with counseling, did a bit of that, and I very quickly then transitioned to the more spiritual space, which was truly like more for me in like the manifestation space. And like I'm saying, it's more like connecting the whole system and making it joyful and expansive. And that's really what I stand for. And the somatic element, that again came in a little bit later as well. And I was like, you know what, this has had such a big impact on me. I'm going to just absolutely like highlight that, and this is going to be my thing, because it's just my heart, it's like sings when I speak about it. But yeah, it was a journey, and it still is a journey. I'm still evolving, I'm still discovering what it is I'm offering. I'm like finalizing how I'm showing up, what I'm doing, and that's all okay. The main thing is I'm on the journey, and I'm no longer scared to take those steps, no matter what they are. And I keep pivoting and diverting in my business and what I'm doing, and I'm like, it's okay, because I know I'm on the right path, and that's the main thing. At first it was really scary, but it's like once you take that initial step of like, you know what, I'm just going to do what I feel right now is the best thing, as long as you trust in yourself that, right, no matter how it works out, and you take that step, that's what counts and that what matters, because it's still an experience, right? It's all adding to what you're doing. So it's kind of like just being brave and walking alongside the fear, right? Because it's always going to be there. You're never going to know for sure how things are going to work out, but it's just trusting that right now this is what's serving you best, and sort of trusting your, you know, your higher self, like that guidance from your heart, from your intuition, and just following that journey and having fun. That's the main thing, is like having fun along the journey, because that's what we're missing a lot. I feel like in this life everyone's just so miserable and it's so heartbreaking, and I was there as well. So it's just like the more fun and joy we can get from simple things, even when things aren't going your way, as long as you had fun doing it, then you're doing it right. So that's where I stand.
I love it. I love the fun, the expansion as well, and obviously you. I think what was really nice and refreshing what you shared there was that, you know what, it has twists, turns, ups, downs, but if you know that you're on the right path and you believe that you're in control of your sort of destiny, really, you know, you're sort of going on that path of, ooh, you know, it's exciting. It's obviously it's definitely nerve wracking. It's scary. It's like I have no idea where this is going. It's the unknown. But I think I can really tell as well. Obviously, it's come from where, when you look back at the old version of Daria, professional systems, paperwork. You know, it's like drowning yourself in that sort of like weight of, gosh, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So, I mean, what do you love most about being your own boss or being a business owner?
Mainly that, again, I can attend to my own needs whenever I need to, right? Like I said, I prioritize myself first. So now everything that I do is structured around that. So the lifestyle, the work style that I have is structured to my needs. So it's around sort of like, I'm making sure I'm getting the nutrition I need, the sleep I need. I'm following my rhythms of creativity. That's also important, right? It's like we're not always like super creative, like it comes and goes. So it's like I'm following my rhythms and cycles, and there are many of them. So it's like I'm letting myself just be my natural self and adapting my work to it, rather than having to adapt myself to work, which is what a lot of us are having to do, right? So it's like completely shifting it and taking it all and being like, no, everything's going to work for me. I'm not going to work for it. Everything's working for me. So, and that's kind of how I manifest, how I envision, right? It's like I make sure that everything is exactly as I enjoy. And that might sound like really out there for people, and I get it. Like I was there because we are all so used to just having to show up in a certain schedule, having to do certain things, and having, you know, these responsibilities and chores. And I get it, but there is a different way. Like I still have responsibilities, I still have chores, and I still attend to things, but I do it in a way that honors me first, and then still does it, and I still show up. It's like today, you know, I still showed up. Let me be honest, I've actually gone through quite a difficult time over the last month with like family situations. And before today, before the podcast, I was feeling a little bit like, you know what, I might not show up in my usual energy, in my usual way of like what I want to bring. But what I did is, before that, I scheduled out the whole like 4 hours before to spend time with myself, to eat, to do some somatic processing, to do some breath work, to attend. And then I was like checking in with myself, and I was like, right, where are we at? And when my body went to me, yeah, I think you're good. And you know what? No matter how you show up, you know it's going to be the way it needs to be. And that's what happened. So it's like, you know, it's being able to still attend to your duties and things that you schedule, but being flexible enough to attend to your needs.
It's, again, well said, well put as well. I really enjoyed listening to that because, I mean, the way that you sort of said about the working bit, you know, it's working for you, not for them, or, you know, you're not attending to anyone else. You're attending to yourself first. You know, you're giving to yourself first. You're not giving to others. I think it's very, very sort of powerful and impactful. And it's clear as well from what you've shared throughout even this episode today that it kind of starts with you. You know, you've got to prioritize, you know, yourself. Now, what you sort of realized, I guess, from obviously this autoimmune condition, but not only that, but also the years prior to that, like what you'd been going through, this was sort of like an opening for you and be like, look, you've got to start looking after yourself. But then you've now got into this space where you feel so much joy, so much happiness. And is there anything, because obviously, I can see that you're very in tune with yourself. Is there anything like self-doubt or is anxieties, is any sort of negative self-talk that creeps back in with your business and what you do day to day, or do you sort of, can you dim that off straight away?
Yeah, absolutely. I was literally writing an article about this today, right? It's all about the spiral of life and healing. It's not a straight journey. It never is. It's like things creep back in, you know, but it's like even if they do, it's almost like you show up from a slightly more evolved space every time. So, like, yes, they creep back in, but maybe you're quicker to notice it, or maybe you process it a little bit quicker, or maybe you already know how to say kind words to it, or how to sit with it, or how to process it through the body. So it's like, it's not like we're not saying, okay, right now we're just going to get rid of all fear, all limiting beliefs forever, and all negative emotions, because that's not life, right? Like, it's a spiral, and that's what makes it exciting. Otherwise, it'd be a bit bland, to be honest. Yeah, it creeps back in, but it's like each time, at least for me, I can tell that I show up with it from a new strength, from a new evolved space of like that connectedness, from that space of my higher self, like my more intuitive self. So it's like things just become easier and things happen quicker. And again, they'll probably keep showing up for the rest of my life, but that's okay. I welcome them. I'm like, I'm not scared of them anymore. It's kind of like they're there and I accept them in. And that's the big part, right? It's that compassion, that acceptance of all parts of you. It's like we're not trying to get rid of them. We're trying to listen to them and integrate them so they become one whole rather than getting rid of them. So
Yeah. No, that's good. And I think just, I guess, generally what people will do if there's a problem that arises or maybe a negative fear would tend to run away or avoid it. Obviously, you're sort of, again, accepting it. You're letting it be. You're just, okay, this is part of, like you say, I think that's a really good point where you say it's not just a straight line. It's not like the linear. It's a bit not, it's up, down, twists, turns everywhere. And you said there that you've written an article. So tell us about that. So obviously, are you a writer? Or are you an author? Or
So, I mean, I'm doing a bunch of different stuff, right? I'm just getting my voice out there, spreading the message. This article, it's more, it's a monthly membership, but it's not just me. There's other holistic practitioners on there. We all
I see.
contribute to this like membership, which is a magazine and the space for people who want to join and really just evolve their healing, evolve themselves. So that's something I'm really happy to be contributing to. But yeah, I've been thinking about a book. I'm creativity is in flow, so there's all sorts happening. Yeah.
Oh, you're in flow state. What would yeah, just a question on that. What is or what does flow state mean to you?
It's, well, for me it feels like it's a lot of fun ideas kind of like coming in, and it's that excitement that you get about doing something, right? And like birthing something into the world that will like come out there and almost like shine a light for others, or spread that light into their hearts, and like also like create that connectedness and spread the love. That's kind of what I see as flow state. Is it's like being so in tune with what's happening and getting so excited about what you're doing that like you're birthing a creation into the world.
Yeah, it's like I like, just because I think flow state can be a bit of a buzzword. I mean flow, but obviously I think how you shared that sounds great because it's like when you're a kid, isn't it? When kids get excited for something like, oh, we're going to go to this party, or I don't know, we're going to go to the water park today. And you're a little kid and you're like jumping up and down. You're like, yeah, let's go and stuff like that. But it's like, but as adults, we sort of, yeah, we don't do that. It's like, oh God, what are people going to think of me? God, I don't want to be too excited. Like for me, if I go to a trampoline park, I'll be with all the kids. You won't see me sat down on an iPad or on my phone scrolling through social media. You'll see me jumping around for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's
You know?
exactly it. I love that you mentioned that as well. The whole is actually so much of it is coming back to that child self, because a lot of this healing is healing that inner wound, that inner wounded child, right? Those different aspects of us that get scattered, and we're bringing them back in, we're integrating them, we're giving them the support and the love, the nurture they needed. A lot of them are wounded children aspects. So once you integrate that, you do get a lot of that joy back. You get a lot of that playfulness, that childlike sense of wonder in the world. So yeah, you do get to see a lot of that when people are on the healing journey, that they do tune into this a little bit more, and it's wonderful. Like, again, we should all be able to, like you said, go to trampoline park and like just be a kid once in a while.
Yeah, but I think as well, I mean, that's just an example. That's just me because I'm quite active, but I just can't sit still. But it's like, be silly,
Mhm.
you know? Be a bit silly, like throw your arms about or just jump up and down and scream. You know, I know that sound again. What you'll know this and get it obviously in the healing world, and I've done sort of things where you've just like been at the top of the mountain, and screamed or something. You know, it's quite nice actually.
Yeah.
Oh, but people probably be like, what are they on?
Yeah.
But I guess you've got to sort of give it a go and try these things because it's just because you used to do that as a kid. I can remember literally screaming at the school. I know I'm going from a bit of a tangent here. Sorry. Is I'd scream where the school or shout and it'd echo off the building, and you just keep doing it, and it's like you think, well, what are we doing that for? But it just worked. It was weird.
Yeah. And again, it actually completely makes sense. Why? Because as children, when we're still like in that more natural state, we know exactly how to like discharge that energy that we're keeping stored, right? How to process whatever's going on. So kids are like, throwing arms around because actually that discharges energy, like shouting, using the voice, all those things have an effect on the nervous system. Whereas the more we grow up, the more we get told to sit still at school, to only put your
Yeah.
hand up when you talk to, not move. We get taught to like contract ourselves and hold everything in, and we lose that natural ability to dispel this energy that we hold on. So it's like, yeah, the more we reconnect with those aspects of children, if anyone's got kids, if you watch your own children and what they do, honestly follow what they do because they probably know
Yeah.
more than you how to actually regulate their bodies, because they're still doing it naturally without all those conditioning and programming like shutting it down. So it's a wonderful way to like, go and spend the time with your child, also regulating your own nervous system by following what they do and, crawling around on the floor, rolling around, all those things.
Yeah. I think I may just what I shared there with you, Daria. I may sound like a dad because I am. We've got a 20-month-old daughter, and she's sort of like really expressionate now. And I was literally out on the garden a couple of hours ago, just sort of rolling around, playing like a bit of kickball, rolling this ball, and she's just running around screaming. And yeah, it's quite a it does definitely bring me back to sort of my childhood, but just sort of on yourself now. Obviously, you've spoken a lot about sort of it's as though sort of this true Daria was like inside somewhere, and it wasn't out to the world. Like people didn't know your true potential, true feelings, who your identity on who you wanted to be. What are you sort of now most excited about for where you're going on your journey? What gets you excited?
I mean, so many things. I think mainly it's spreading my voice, right? And using my voice for power, because that was one big thing for me that I had to overcome as a big trauma in my life, was like the suppression of my voice and my speech and my expression. So for me to be using that as a medicine for others, right? Just by me coming onto these platforms and speaking my truth, and maybe like having an inkling where someone else goes, I can feel something, maybe there's a shift. That is the biggest gift, honestly, to be able to like use that as a healing medicine, and to be able to share everything I do, to put the love into the work I do. Before it felt like I was doing it for something else, and it was so like in a way that I would never choose to do. Whereas now everything I'm doing is the way that I intuitively feel is the right way, right? And it's backed by all the like, the research and all that, but it's put in the form and in a way that I feel in my heart is really helping, and it's really in a way that is attuned with myself as well. So yeah, it's just being able to express myself in whatever way I feel I want to, and knowing that it doesn't matter what happens as long as I'm expressing myself and being my true self. And that's freedom, right? It's that real freedom, because I don't even care so much of how exactly it's going to plan out. I just know it will.
Yeah, and that's exciting. Just hearing you say that, really, and you can tell, obviously, for the guys listening in, Daria's got a smile. She was excited sharing that, and you can tell it's sort of like really you. It's you're in a great place. Got a lot of exciting things. Obviously, yes, you have emotions where you feel a bit down, and obviously everything creeps in. But you can really probably, well, I'm feeling now. I got a bit of a sense of what life was like before, and what life is like now. But we are getting towards the end of the episode. It's been a bit of a speedy, well, it feels like a speedy hour. That is, great conversation. I love to ask every guest this question because I love to sort of hear their perspective. So I'd love to ask you, Daria, what does mastering your life mean to you?
I think it means taking the reins, like taking back that control over your destiny, not feeling like you're a victim to your circumstances, and really taking a step back and being like, what can I do right now? Because there's always something, even if it's a small thing, but there's always something. And that's where it begins, with those small changes, small steps, stepping back into your power, being your one whole self, going on that healing journey and reclaiming all those parts of you that were like disconnected from yourself, integrating them and becoming a friend with your body, your mind, your soul. So really becoming your ultimate shining light, and then being a light for other people so they can do the same.
That's brilliant. I like how you sort of brought people together on that as well. It's like, yes, it starts with you, but you can actually shine that light and bring it into other people's lives. But that way, so not being a victim to your own circumstances. That was powerful. I really appreciate you sharing that. So look, if anyone sort of wants to find out more about you or find you, where's the best place that they can connect or even send you a message?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's at Enlightened Soul Tribe, or my website, enlightenedsoultribe.com. Or you can find me on Facebook, Daria Lebedeva. I think there might be many, so mine ends with Daria Lebedeva 111. I'm sure there are many on there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what we'll do anyway, I mean, thanks for sharing that. We'll always just include the links in the show notes so people won't get lost. Like you say, when you said 111, I was like, listen, we'll just make sure we'll just make sure that one's there, because people might go, oh, was it 3 1s, 2 1s, 1 1? But final thing from me, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. It's been a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.